The X-Men are one of the greatest superhero teams in media, not just because of their amazing powers, but because they deal with real-world issues. Racism, xenophobia, homophobia, essentially every form of prejudice that there is. And the characters are varied, both in their experiences and in how they react to this prejudice, all of which leads to some of the most interesting characters that exist in comics. And we are going to take a look at some of these characters and see which Lantern Corps they belong in. Now, for those who don't know, the Lantern Corps are based on several different emotions, and the members of them have rings that give them superpowers. But in order to wield one of these rings, you have to have a deep emotional connection to the emotion that powers them. And we're going to see which Lantern Corps that are mutants have the deepest connection to. Magneto. Now, I really wanted to place Magneto into the Fear Lantern Corps because it would just be perfect. He is very much a villain whom the whole world fears, so he would be perfect for the Sinestro Corps, and he fully qualifies. And quite frankly, I would just love to read a story where he gets the ring. And of course, it really fits into the whole mutants being feared and hated. But although the Fear Lantern Corps would work for him, and I could easily see him choosing a Fear ring, as he would like the power that it brings, still it has to be said that the Rage Lantern Corps is more for him. You see, the Red Lanterns are all about anger and revenge. Their anger is fueled by getting revenge on those who have wronged them in the past. And it is very well established that Magneto was a Jew in an internment Nazi camp during the Second World War. So it's pretty safe to say that he has been very wronged by a lot of people.
As a boy, my people's homes were burned to ash because we dared to call God by another name.
And though there are many examples of him getting even, the two that I'm mainly thinking of are from the First Class film and the Apocalypse film, in which he was just plain out for revenge. At first, he wanted to get vengeance on how the Nazis treated him, and for the death of his mother, something which we can all understand. We might not be able to relate to it, at least I hope we can't, but we would definitely understand. And then in the Apocalypse film, he wanted revenge for the death of his wife and daughter. Now, in most continuities, his daughter actually survives, as she is of course the Scarlet Witch, but the wife almost always dies in every continuity, and it's always the same. This happens, and Magneto immediately goes looking for revenge. And while later in his life he has let go of that anger, sort of, he's not letting it control him, he's thinking more logically, but it is still there beneath the surface, fueling his actions.
You have lived in the shadows in shame and fear for too long. Come out. Join me. Fight together in a brotherhood of our kind.
So the Red Lanterns will always have a link to him. But to be fair, like I said in the beginning, when you get to later in his life, especially the Ian McKellen stage, shall we say, it makes more sense to say that fear has fully taken over his reins, as he is trying to scare the humans as much as possible in an attempt to protect the world of mutants. And at the end of the day, who is the most feared mutant on the planet? Because I think we can all agree it is by far Magneto. He is the face and leader of the mutant war against the humans.
They wish to cure us, but I say to you, we are the cure!
And since Magneto's entire mission in life has been to make the mutants strong and respected, so that they will never be exterminated or experimented on again, well, because of this, he has done everything he can to make others fear him. It's all part of the plan to get humans to be scared of mutants. After all, if you can't get their respect, then you get their fear. And the aim, of course, is to get them so scared that they won't lock up or exterminate mutants, just like Magneto was when he was a child. And although he certainly has enough anger for the Rage Lantern Corps, no matter what, fear is really his calling. And if he had a choice between the two, I think it is the one he would take, as it better helps him to meet his long-term goals. So, although I've kind of backtracked and put him in the Fear Lantern Corps, I would say that early on in life, he was in the Red Lanterns of Rage. I mean, there are a lot of times in his life when he's purely just angry and trying to get revenge.
If you're in there, I'd like you to know that I agree with every word you said. But unfortunately, you killed my mother.
But then later on, when he starts thinking more about the world of mutants as a whole, and has a mission to try and make things safe, well, in this point in his life, he definitely belongs in the Sinestro Lantern Corps, because fear is what he's all about. Like I said, if you can't get respect, get their fear. And he wants people to fear mutants so much that they'll at least pretend to treat them with respect.
The tragic fact that I did not consign those sapiens to the waste bin of history is proof of my desire to honor Charles Xavier's dream of mutant-human coexistence.
Cyclops. Now, Cyclops' greatest asset is, and always has been, his strategic mind. His powers are actually quite devastatingly powerful. He rarely uses them to full effect, but he does have some serious firepower behind those eyes, especially since the lens he actually wears filters it down. When he takes it off, he is more powerful, and since his eyes never stop firing, well, that's a lot of power continuously coming out. But the real thing that makes Cyclops a threat is that he is able to assess a situation and come up with a plan for victory, and then lead his team through that plan until they succeed. And he is able to do this thanks to his incredible willpower. And although he has suffered from crippling self-doubt over the years, he frequently overcomes this, and when he does, he is a leader of almost unparalleled skill. And it's not only his greatest asset, it's pretty much all he has to his character, to be honest. Seriously, Cyclops is actually kind of a boring robot. He is a very strict, play-by-the-rules type of person.
We get this done by working together as a team. Think you can do that, Logan?
Jeez, Dad. Keep buzzing in my ear. What would we do if we ever lost you?
He is the leader of the X-Men, and that is not only all that he has in his life, it's all that he's ever wanted to be. He is calm and logical for the most part. Sure, he's had his outbursts here and there, but generally he approaches every situation with as little emotion as possible. Now, while it is true that in a lot of the films and TV shows he's not shown like this, in the comics he very much is like this, and that's who I'm choosing to base this on. And the fact that he is able to overcome, suppress and control his emotions proves that he has amazing willpower, because doing that takes willpower. So for him, there really is no other choice than the Green Lantern Corps. Professor X. Now, Xavier is by far the easiest one to place in a Lantern Corps, as there is literally only one real choice, and it is of course the Blue Lanterns of Hope. Simply because in the world of X-Men, Charles Xavier is the most hopeful person there is on the planet. He is the one who never gives up on both mutants becoming better and on humans accepting them. He has a dream of mutants and humans living together in harmony, and he believes in it with all of his heart. And he never gives up on that dream, even in the darkest of hours. Now true, there are some hiccups along the way, but that is inevitable with any plan. And ultimately, Xavier never gives up. Being hopeful is like breathing to him, and he inspires all of those around him by extent.
What you are about to tell the world is true. This is a moment. A moment to repeat the mistakes of the past, or to work together for a better future.
And he never even gives up on Magneto, no matter how many people he has killed, which, to be honest, is a colossal mistake, and he really should have given up on him a long time ago. Either kill him or hand him over to the authorities, as he really isn't going to change.
You're sneaking around in here, Charles. Whatever are you looking for? I'm looking for hope.
He always ends up being a bad guy in one way or another, and killing people in every X-Men film he's in, and ultimately in any comic or animated story he is in. Now, there have been times when he has gotten better and he's actually become a good guy, but he always ends up being a bad guy again. It's just how it is with him. Of course, this does make for an interesting story, bad guy becoming good, being a bit of an anti-hero, and inevitably being bad again, and I'm sure there are some versions where they'll actually have him stay good, but every version I've ever seen, he always ends up being bad again. And yet Charles Xavier still doesn't give up on him. Despite everything that he's done, Xavier still has hope that he can become a better man.
Why do you come here, Charles?
Why do you ask questions to which you already know the answers?
Yes. Your continuing search for hope.
Xavier is an impossibly hopeful man who has limitless patience and understanding. Even a complete lost cause like Magneto is something he still believes in and works towards, and because of that, Magneto has, temporarily, become a good person, and the whole world has been affected by him. His hope has infected everyone. It has made them better people, and it has enabled them to think of a better future.
Xavier's sacrifice brought about a world more tolerant towards mutants. I am indebted to honor his last wish.
So he's basically just that ultimate teacher that we all know. You know, the Professor Dumbledore type. Just the ultimately impossibly patient teacher who gives chance after chance after chance. and that means that he can only be in the Blue Lantern Corps of Hope.
Charles Xavier did more for mutants than you'll ever know. My single greatest regret is that he had to die for our dream to live.
Beast. Now, Beast is the classic example of don't judge a book by its cover. On the outside, he is a terrifying blue Bigfoot, but on the inside, he is an educated and caring man.
The only safe and sure way to destroy your enemy is to make him your friend. Mark Twain.
And there are two Lantern Corps that make sense for him. The first goes back to Beast's origin. Now, this origin has changed from version to version, but the main one is that he was a mutant and wanted a cure for his mutation. So, being a scientist, he looked for a cure and designed a treatment. But when he took this treatment, it made his mutation worse, and he ended up mutating into the blue furry beast that we know and love. Now, this emotional state during all of this process can be summed up in one word: shame. He was ashamed of who he was and what he was, which is why he made his cure. He didn't want to be a mutant anymore.
But even if we save the world tomorrow, and mutants are accepted into society, my feet in your natural blue form will never be deemed beautiful.
So at this part in his life, he would definitely be in the Shame Lantern Corps, undoubtedly. And that's something that lasts for quite a while, even after he changes. If anything, when he first changes, he's more full of shame. So he would fully qualify for this Lantern Corps. But just as his body changed, his mind changed as well. Beast went from a slightly strange-looking man to an extremely strange-looking man, to the point where he no longer even looked human. Now, I can't even begin to imagine how difficult it must be for him to look like this, and the way he must be treated by others on a daily basis would be truly disgusting. We all know he's going to be looked down on everyone, and at best given patronising sympathy, which may explain why he's actually so calm and compassionate. He does not want to be judged as a monster, and so he compensates for this with his charm and his intellect, and he does actually do quite a good job.
Greetings, enemy mine. Might I induce you to a change of heart? Louis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful involuntary friendship.
And in fairness, he may have been this articulate and charming regardless, but I think we can all agree that this mutation would make him be more like that, because he's compensating for the beast form that he's in. He needs to let everyone know that he has higher brain functioning. And words can't really describe how impressive this is. You see, a lot of people who would go through this type of deforming change would not come out of it as calm as Beast is, nor as compassionate. A lot of people would give in to their shame and anger and lash out at others. But Beast did not, and does not. Sure, he has his moments of anger, but if we look like this, I think we'd all be entitled to the occasional moment of anger and envy at not being able to look like everyone else.
Never looked better, man.
Hank?
Don't mock me.
In fact, the really impressive thing here is that he doesn't do this more often. You think he would be in constant depression and shame, but instead, he overcomes this. This is not Beast's default state. In fact, you almost never see him like this. Instead, Beast found meaning in his transformation and was able to accept who he is and what he is. He understands not wanting to be a mutant, and not only relates to new mutants, but he uses his experience to try and help them. So instead of giving in to his negative emotions, Beast took his trauma and turned it into understanding and compassion, which is a truly unbelievably impressive feat. So naturally, he belongs in the Compassion Lantern Corps, which as we all know has two types of people. There's either the psychopaths with no compassion, who make up most of the Corps, but there's also the ones who actually have a deep connection to compassion, and Beast is one of these people. So, in a nutshell, in his early days he was filled with shame and should be in the Shame Lantern Corps, but later in life he deals with this shame and accepts it, and even uses it to reach out and help others, so he has turned his trauma into compassion. And so he belongs in the Indigo Lantern Corps of Compassion. And those are my choices for these mutants and the Lantern Corps they belong in. Now, as always, this is a discussion video, and we all know that some of you are not going to agree with my choices. But if you agree or disagree, then please let us know in the comments. And if you do disagree, feel free to give us your reasoning, because like I say, it's a discussion video and we'd all like to know what you're thinking, and your reasons for placing them in a different Lantern Corps. And I'd just like to quickly remind everyone that we have some merchandise available on our store, and to say thanks to all of you who have donated to the Needle Mouse Productions page on Patreon. And as always, thanks for watching, and feel free to subscribe, share, like, and comment.